Good evening. Welcome to the Town of Basalt Planning and Zoning Commission meeting on February 17th. Can we have a call to order, please?
All right. Bill Marin.
Yo.
Kyle Oberketter. Eric Fozick.
Here.
Rob Levitt.
Yes.
Cindy Hirschfield.
Here.
Mike Horvath.
Here.
Bob Kaplan. And Ben Firestein.
Here.
All right, you have a quorum.
Excellent. First item on the agenda is to approve the minutes from February 3rd. Any comments, changes? If not, we'll take a motion to approve.
Motion to approve?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to abstain. I wasn't here.
Yeah.
Okay.
Likewise.
Got it.
Excellent. Next item is a public hearing on 72 Sunset Drive PUD amendment. We have a recommended action to continue the public hearing to March 3rd. Excuse me.
So moved.
Need a second.
Second.
Second from Mike. All in favor? Aye.
Okay.
Excellent. Moving forward quickly. Our next item then is continued public hearing on 555 Basalt Avenue Special Review and associated development and review requests. I'll hand it over to staff to get us going.
Yeah, thank you. Let me please share my screen here, just a quick second. We have the applicants here this evening. Justin and Marika, if you could please step up to the table. We've got Justin Fries and Marika Blodgett representing the applicant group. This is a continued public hearing on an application submitted by MREH LLC for special review, PUD amendments, Southside floodplain review and associated land use actions to construct 54 commercial storage spaces and 45 multifamily residential units at 555 Basalt Avenue, which is the Myers and Company property in Southside. As discussed at the last meeting, the process includes land use requests requiring review by the Basalt Affordable Community Housing Commission, which is BAC, the P&Z, as well as the Town Council, with public hearings at both the P&Z and the council levels. It also requires a subsequent subdivision review to condominiumize the residential. Staff has also identified that the requested development would require approval of a master plan amendment to amend the future land use map as well as the typology designation for the property. And so staff has included in your packet materials a draft resolution for amendments to the master plan for P&Z's consideration. At the last meeting, the P&Z heard a presentation of the proposal and discussion items from staff and the applicants, as well as updates on the conditions. Staff also suggested the the P&Z take public comments, and then the commission took discussion up on all the topics with the exception of the affordable housing related topics before continuing the public hearing. So at this meeting, staff would suggest hearing more updates on the discussion items and conditions from both staff and the applicants. Also considering the resolution for the master plan amendment that's in your packet, and then taking public comments and providing P&Z discussion on the discussion items as well as the conditions, including those related to affordable housing, because the Basalt Affordable Housing Commission has now made a recommendation on the application. So with that, staff would like to offer a brief refresher on the application. The site subject to the application is a 4.8 acre parcel that houses Myers and Company steel. It's located in the Basalt Business Center South PUD, and it's zoned industrial PUD and in the urban growth boundary. It's also partially in the Southside floodplain. The proposal, as has been identified at the past two meetings, is to construct 54 storage units on the southern portion, and then also 45 residential units in 3 buildings on the north portion of the site. Just to get your bearings, this is the Basalt Park and Ride, and then you've got Fiu Lane up here to the south. The proposed access to the storage spaces is from Fiu Lane, and the proposed access to the residential component is from East Cody Lane via driveway access. In terms of other aspects of the proposal, the applicant has revised the affordable housing component and the overall number of residential units. The number of residential units is dropped from 48 to 45, and the number of deed-restricted affordable housing has proposed to be dropped from 12 to 11. In reviewing the application at prior meetings, staff identified a series of discussion items, and we'll give some updates on various discussion items this evening. But P&Z did request some additional materials at the last meeting. The additional materials that you have in your packet include updated elevation drawings showing additional visual interest, and the applicant can present those this evening. There's updated traffic report that includes additional traffic count and also some additional analysis around East Cody Lane. And the applicant's traffic engineer is on the Zoom this evening to provide additional comments on that. It's also noted that the applicant received confirmation from CDOT about the ability to increase the number of trips on the sliver access piece, which is located right here. If you remember, there was a limitation on this sliver access from CDOT that limited it to 5 vehicular trips per day, but CDOT has conceptually approved increasing the amount of trips that are allowed there to accommodate the residential development. Going back to the discussion items and updates on the discussion items, as I noted, there have been some adjustments, the first being consistency with the master plan. Staff identified a series of goals and objectives from the master plan that could be furthered by the proposal in staff's memo in the last 2 meetings. It's noted that the amendments to the future land use map and typology designations would be needed, and so there is a resolution in your packet for consideration for those changes. The draft resolution would amend the future land use map designation to storage warehouse on the southern aspect of it, and then to multifamily residential on the northern aspect where the residential is proposed. And then the typologies would also be amended to designate the property as multifamily residential. Other topics include the level of affordable housing mitigation and the mix of affordable housing mitigation. The BOC committee originally reviewed the proposal and recommended that the project incorporate more larger affordable housing units since all the units were smaller one-bedroom units. The applicant responded by combining studio and one-bedroom units in each of the 3 buildings to create 3 two-bedroom units in the project. In doing so, they reduced the number of units total from 48 down to 45, and they reduced the number of affordable housing units from 12 to 11. The revised mix of affordable housing deed-restricted units that are in the project include 1 studio, 9 one-bedroom units, and 1 two-bedroom unit. The applicant also changed the proposal to make all of the units a for-sale product instead of the originally proposed rental product. In total, the revised program yields 24% of the residential units and 25% of the residential square footage being deed restricted. The town's current affordable housing requirements are that 20% of the residential units and 25% of the residential square footage has to be deed restricted. It's also noted that this is a mixed-use project, and so the town code currently requires that the higher of the residential and the commercial mitigation be applied to the project, and then the lower of the two be forgiven. This is in the process of changing through code amendments that the Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed at the last meeting, but that requirement is still in play in this project. Bach reviewed the revised affordable housing program, and they were supportive of the change to for sale units, since the town has very few for sale units in the inventory of affordable housing. Bach was also accepting of the percentage of units and square footage that's proposed to be deed restricted in the revised program. Bach did recommend that the average category of the units actually be bumped up to category 3 with the change to the for sale product. They had a concern that with the lower category of units, that potential purchasers might have difficulty getting loans to actually purchase the lower category of units. So they've recommended a category 3 average for all the deed restricted units. The applicants also eliminated the need for the waiver from the exterior storage requirement because the applicant was able to accommodate storage units in the building, and they can speak to that. So ultimately, Bach reviewed the revised program and recommended approval of the revised program. So staff has updated the draft conditions to reflect the revised development program as well as Bach's recommendations. Other topics for consideration included the traffic. As I mentioned, the applicant updated the traffic counts in response to concern about there only being one day's worth of traffic counts identifying the existing traffic. And so they did a second traffic count. And you've got a letter from the applicant's traffic engineer that identified the conclusion of the second traffic count. Basically, the second traffic count was higher than the initial traffic count that was done. And so that further substantiated the conclusion of the traffic report, which was that the proposed traffic would not exceed the traffic from the Myers' current operations. And the applicant's traffic engineer also provided some discussion in the letter about East Cody Lane and how the queuing would work on East Cody Lane. And so the applicant's engineer is on the Zoom, and we'll discuss that further as part of the applicant comments. The conditions continue to reflect a requirement for the applicant to contribute to the mini roundabout and laneage improvements at the Cody Lane Basalt Avenue intersection, which would get rid of the traffic signals split phase to improve the intersection performance. Other topics included the FIU Lane. FIU Lane has been a significant discussion item thus far. Emergency services, the police department, and the town engineer have been interested in having the applicant widen to a full 2 lanes of width for two-way traffic, given that the current FIU Lane cross-section basically narrows down to 1 lane at points. The P&Z at the last meeting expressed a desire for exploring alternatives to the full 2-lane width that can be more friendly to multimodal uses and yet provide emergency services in the police department with the access that they need from an emergency standpoint. So staff and the town engineer believe it's appropriate to have a third-party traffic engineer evaluate it to make recommendations to the town council before the town council makes any decision on a final plan application. And so staff has adjusted the conditions of approval to require that in the conditions, and then also still has the dedication of a 10-foot access easement on the applicant's property in case the town were to desire to widen it in the future. So the town would have that additional room for that potential. So that's included in the revised condition. The applicant also provided revised elevations, which is kind of the final discussion item. The revised elevations are in your packet, and also staff sent some updated versions that the staff received from the applicant today. And we sent those, and there are copies at your seats for review. And the applicants will go over those as part of their staff or applicant comments. So this evening, staff would suggest hearing additional applicant comments on the updated items, taking public comments, and then providing P&C discussion. If you're comfortable, you could provide potential motions on both the master plan amendment resolution as well as the development application. Staff has identified several decision options for the P&Z. You could recommend approval with the conditions that are drafted. You could direct staff on changes to the conditions and recommend approval with adjusted conditions. You could recommend denial, or you could provide direction that additional information is needed and continue the public hearing. So with that, I will stop sharing my screen here and turn it over to the applicant group. We've got Justin and Marika. And let me pull up your presentation.
There we go. Okay. There we go. All right. Good evening, Commissioners. Thanks for having us back. I'm going to touch on and try and keep the format of James's discussion items, just so we can kind of keep some organization there. Originally, I just want to open with kind of discussing the project from the initial concept to where we are today. When my firm got engaged with the Meyer Steel ownership, we wanted to look at how do we right-size development, how do we make an appropriate proposal for redeveloping this site. As an industrial zone district, it was partially about how much industrial is right-sized for that area. It's a heavy industrial use right now that straddles kind of Cody Lane and some small-scale industrial with residential housing behind it. And so a lot of this site planning that we've done from the start was what is appropriate, what is a right scale, and then how do you add housing into that, because it's an industrial district as well. And so, we looked at more housing, we looked at more storage, and we feel like we've settled in on a site plan that really offers the best of both worlds, because this is an area that really wasn't conceived of as a lot of housing, but it's right next to the RAFTA Park and Ride, and transit-oriented development would be very beneficial here. We think it provides more housing than that was anticipated. It provides a storage unit type that is in demand, because there is self-storage in this district, but it's more small scale, 10-foot garage doors. It doesn't accommodate typical RVs or larger equipment. There are trade contractors that like this type of storage unit as well. Right now, I'm aware of similar development in Aspen that's fully sold out by the airport, and there is a similar development going on in Glenwood Springs of about 30 units, of which half have already sold out. And so it is a type of storage that isn't readily available nearby, that is in demand. And it also, the proposed development does remove a heavy industrial use that is directly, abutting a residential district. And the other thing that we've talked about in all of the meetings we've been, and we'll talk about tonight, is traffic. And so as we looked at this, we had to look at the uses that generate a lot of traffic and less so. And so that was also how we kind of settled in on this, the number of residential units, the number of storage units. And you'll see that through the traffic studies that we had previously and that we had done just last week. So with that, I'll probably have you jump to the next page. So again, we've got the aerial images, both the regional one and more of the local of the Southside Business District for reference here. And jump to the next page. So we've expanded this page from our previous presentation to do the overlay of the real kind of local aerial to see the Rafter parking lot to the north, the 525 mixed-use building to our west. We've got an open contractor yard and the gas station to the west, and then Few Lane coming down to the south. Just for some context there that we can use to look at. And I'll have you jump to the next page. So this is the our floodplain map. We went through multiple iterations. We actually had originally 6 storage buildings with a few more units. Because of their layout, it was providing, it was essentially holding up the water, and in a 100-year event, it would back up onto the property to our east. So this is the resultant of a couple rounds of revisions with Public Works and Engineering to provide a site plan that would meet the 100-year and the 500-year events for FEMA floodplains. This also resulted in the residential buildings being lifted off the ground to allow pass through through the site in one of those events. I'll have to jump to the next. In looking at the allowable uses in the industrial PUD, we have further limited the heavy industrial uses, heavy traffic uses, so that if anybody wanted to use their storage unit as a small shop or a fabrication area, they could through what's allowed in the industrial district currently. That being said, we are proposing that the HOA would limit this to only a secondary place of use, more in a storage type of use, not in a primary place of use, hosting clients, guests, things like that. So that language has been added into our proposal in the event that anybody were to use this as a personal warehouse or a flex warehouse for their business. We also believe that limiting factor keeps traffic to a minimum versus heavier warehouse and industrial type uses. So anything in red here or yellow are categories that red has been fully restricted. Yellow now becomes, from an allowable use, becomes a special review use. And for the most part, everything on the left-hand side is small scale. I can give you some examples from that. Touched on them some last time. But they are machining, printing, plumbing, electrician, sheet metal, upholstery, general repair, artwork, ceramics, furniture, something like that. We're seeing more or less small scale contractors or small businesses like caterers use this as overflow space. I'll jump to the next page. So since our last meeting, we went in front of the Bach Commission last Thursday. As James pointed out, what we did was reduce one of our studios from each building, combined it with a 1-bedroom to provide a 2-bedroom unit. So now, in lieu of just providing all 1-bedrooms as deed restricted units, there's a mix of a studio, a 1-bedroom, and then 9 1-bedrooms, giving that a mix. And we have changed from rental units to for sale units. In discussion with Bach, we did agree to shoot for a category 3, as James mentioned, to allow for the affordability to buy the units since they're now for sale and not for rent. They seem to receive that pretty well. And you will see, so what we did here is show the first level, second level, and third level of a typical building. This is the building that actually has the 2-bedroom unit, which is on your lower right in the center. 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom unit. And then there's a studio unit up on the top right of the 3rd floor. One of the considerations and one of the requests we also accommodated was on the lowest level to provide storage closets. So we have shaded in orange the affordable units, but then also it would be a deeded storage closet at the head-end parking of their parking space that's deed restricted to that unit. So that would allow them first floor access for bikes, skis, any sort of gear, and it would be deed restricted to the unit. That way someone wouldn't be parking in front of it and trapping that in. They could just move their car and access storage closets. That also allowed us to add 6 storage closets for the market rate units as well. So we added in total 10 storage units. There are a total of 15 units per building, so some of the larger units we would probably go without storage at this time. And all of that would be deed restricted to the unit, carry with the unit, also with the parking space. Jumping to, I think I'll jump back. One more thing on the Bach was, so we originally had 48 units. Because of the reduction, we went down to 45 units. We originally were at 25% and 25% of the area, 25% of the units. With the reduction down to from 48 to 45 units, we went to 11 deed restricted units. That maintains, it's essentially 24.5%. And we felt that was still in line with total number of units being offered and total number of units being offered as deed restricted. Just being 1% off or a 0.5% off the previous application. Have you jump to the next one? One of the items we talked about previously was building height. With some of the design revisions, we now have sloping roofs. Basalt zoning code measures the sloping roof to the midpoint of the average of the slope. We are still carrying that kind of 37.5 to 38 foot range. So we have updated the building section to show those adjusted heights. We're essentially still showing the 35 foot to the top of the flat roof, and then as it slopes up, the midpoint of that slope is right in the 37 to 38 foot, which is similar to the parapet height we had previously shown in our drawings at the last meeting. So this is the site plan that James has showed you. More for context, just to show the next couple discussion items were pedestrian connectivity and site connectivity. So we've got north to the right, we've got the Cody Lane access with walk added at the RAFTA lot. As James mentioned, CDOT has provided a access permit offer to the applicant to provide for both the storage traffic and the residential traffic. And it was approved for the previous 48 units, so the reduction down to 45 should be no problem as far as the CDOT access permit goes to Cody Lane. I'll have to jump to the next. So this is looking again at the Cody Lane access, the drainage ditch, and the sidewalk and the existing conditions currently. So top right picture, we aren't able to bring a sidewalk down to connect over because we've got landscaping and utility. And so we are working within the CDOT access to bring the sidewalk around and connect to where you see those traffic cones in the lower right. And I'll have you jump to the next. This is the graphic from the last meeting. The heavy red line is the property line for the RAFTA lot. And then that is our proposed sidewalk crossing from the 555 property around to the CDOT access and then wrapping around through that little triangle in the corner is an access easement agreed to between CDOT and RAFTA. And so in our discussions with both RAFTA and CDOT, the access allows for a sidewalk there. And so we would just need to, through our construction drawings, complete that and probably do some rework to the drainage ditch in that area. I'll have you jump to the next. This is jumping over to the Few Lane side. These are the existing conditions currently. So there is a 8 foot tall fence, 6 or 8 foot tall fence currently, and that's right up on the property line. of Few Lane. And so the proposed development actually eliminates that fence and creates a 20-foot, or might be 30-foot, frontage to the closest building, and creates a path that both the fire district has asked for, but also would be a public usable path to walk on, that would eliminate people really walking down Few Lane at this point. I'll jump to the site plan. So here we have kind of an enlargement of that area. We've got the soft path that goes along the backside of the buildings, and then the landscape. You'll see the existing circles, or the circles that are black and white, are the existing trees we're proposing to save. We believe most of those have at least 50% life or better, based on an arborist report. And they are also some of the tallest trees on the site and in the area. And so that is what is making widening Few, one of the discussion topics. A bit of a difficulty would be the elimination of landscape to widen it. You'd be eliminating some fairly mature trees at that point. The applicant is open to either making it a two-way or a one-way. I believe, based on what we heard from the neighbors in the district last week, a one-way would be looked upon more favorably in that, but we're looking for some guidance from the commission and the city as to, what would be preferred there. I think we would be able to accommodate either of those. It would really just be upon that guidance, and so looking for some more direction there as to how best to proceed. And then I'll jump to last part of the pedestrian connectivity and traffic. This is the construction management plan that we showed last meeting. This was one contractor's initial take as to how they would proceed with construction to the site. This was accessing the site from Basalt Ave through the roundabout, and then leaving the site out through the CDOT access and through Cody Lane. One of their reasonings behind that was to not have large tractor trailer or dumpster or dump truck traffic waiting to turn left onto Cody Lane. So bringing them into the site a bit further and then exiting them out so that they could then take a right off of Cody Lane onto Basalt Avenue, exiting the site. Other than that, pretty simplistic as far as just a centralized job site trailer, centralized staging, and then trash dumpsters for both sites depending on how construction would be phased. And then the red line throughout would be construction fencing. Jump to the next. Okay. And then wanted to touch on the topic of design that was brought up in the previous meeting. One of the things we've really focused in on is the site is really a transitional site between industrial and residential. And so we've got some images of the buildings in the area on the left. We've got the mixed use kind of flex industrial space right at the roundabout across from the gas station on the top there, the 525 mixed use building on the left. The new domestic center going into the area at the far east end of Cody Lane, and then the new housing over in Stotts Mill. Wanted to show all of these to show that a lot of them are a mix of metal and of some masonry or some siding elements. Typically the more residential elements are siding and metal, whereas the more industrial type buildings are a masonry and kind of a mix of metals. And also looking at this, we wanted to kind of celebrate the site and its steel heritage. And so we looked at, you'll see in the lower right, some historic kind of mining images, looking at steel mining head frames or looking at elevated mill buildings and how they could possibly apply to the architecture we were providing on these buildings. And in the top right, we've got some imagery of Alpine style buildings we took some inspiration from. whether they were new hospitality buildings that we've seen in other mountain towns, or even then looking to kind of typical alpine, the lower left in that kind of 4-pack on the right is a Western Alps, Northern Italian ski town style village. We really looked at the vertical wood siding of that, and we've been looking at that application. So then I'll have you jump to the next page. So that is the evolution of the design from the previous meeting. So from the previous meeting, we had a much more flat, kind of extruded type of architecture. In this, we've created some new roof lines with sloping and variation to really kind of break down the massing and not just give a block that's lifted up. We've also, to celebrate the steel history of the site a little bit more, traded out the stair towers they were stone in a previous rendition. We traded them out to treat them like a steel head frame from a mining type appearance. Also adding some additional steel detailing at the top, at the fascias, wrapping the bottom of the building, and they are the, kind of oversized steel columns lifting the building up out of the ground, and providing this new view to show kind of the size and the scale of the buildings. And we have, you'll see the roof lines kind of vary along that rafta face there. Also showing the exterior patios, and you'll see some of those storage units that we added in that front view there, and giving you some idea of the scale between the flex warehouse storage buildings and the residential buildings. I'll have you jump to that. And then that is that same first image, just giving you a better idea of the overall development. And the storage building, I think we're stealing some of the kind of that roof monitor pop-up of the building across from the Shell station, but those also are providing light into those storage units when people are in there, so they're not just caves. So every storage unit essentially has daylight, along with the revised design to the residential buildings. So I think, with our changes, we have really made accommodations to a lot of the discussions items that we started with in the first meeting, whether it was making revisions for the affordable housing, changing of the design, and the last one would be the traffic. The traffic study that we had done recently that James touched on showed traffic very similar to the one 2 years ago, and with the reduction of residential units, it does show that traffic in and out of the site would be reduced by about a total of 13 trips daily. So the overall development, is still respecting trying to reduce or be a reducer of traffic in the area. So with that, I will open to hear your questions and comments.
Any questions?
Just one quick one. Can you remind me, are the storage units for sale or rental?
For sale.
Okay.
Yep.
How many employees do you envision working on site or at the storage units?
So when we did the full-time equivalents, we had 9. We had calculated about 9 based on industry data that we had available.
And I appreciate the changes to the architecture.
No questions.
More so questions for the town. This project is required to contribute to the roundabout project, yes?
Mm-hmm.
What is the trigger to initiate that project? Or is that just something that's, once there's enough funding collected, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's based on the amount of funding that can be collected. There is a contribution that's required from basically all the development in Southside that occurs. And originally it was set up to fund basically $500,000 worth of funding towards that roundabout. Costs have went up since the roundabout was originally designed and required. We anticipate potentially going into design, kind of a final design in the next couple of years here. It was chosen by council not to do the final design at this point this year. So there isn't really a trigger. It's trying to collect enough funding to make the project work.
Okay. No other questions at this time?
I apologize, I missed the first couple meetings, but for my own interest, are you able to reuse any of the existing infrastructure for any of the units, any of the storage units or anything of that nature?
I don't know that we've looked fully into that. There could be some slight possibility, but yeah.
And then I saw a blip on it, no issues with meeting the green building requirements or anything else?
Nope, at this time, we're aware of that, and it would be the intent to meet all of the green building initiative, fire hardening code, all of those items, but really not having gotten full depth into, construction drawings. We're acknowledging those and will meet those goals.
Okay, great.
I have a question of staff, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
James, if this actually were a mixed-use development like envisioned by the master plan, can we guess how many units and jobs would be on the site?
Well, we had a calculation in the housing memo. Basically, the mitigation requirements are, for residential and commercial. The residential is what is being provided for with the 11 units, but because we have the commercial and the residential mitigation requirements, and we take the higher and forgive the lower.
No.
So the total would be basically another 3 units on top of the 11 for the commercial. Is that what you're asking?
No.
14,
Had it been a mixed-use development as envisioned by the master plan,
yeah.
not this proposal, given the site of the land and the size of the lot and everything, how many units would there be there and how many jobs would be there because it'd have to be mixed-use commercial?
It's not that detailed in the master plan.
Okay,
Yeah.
There's just too many options for what the commercial use could be
that's
to
what I
figure
was
that
wondering.
out. Yeah.
But it's being considered as a mixed-use project anyway as a whole, so from a mitigation standpoint.
Right, I got that. Okay, thanks.
And to James, your point then, if we didn't do an either or, but we combined it, it would be 14 units instead of 11?
Yes, correct.
Any other questions pop up?
Yeah, I actually have a follow-up. Can your traffic engineer talk a little bit about, we've touched on traffic numbers. Obviously, the flow of traffic is changing significantly and pushing more traffic on the Cody lane. And can he discuss the impacts to that intersection with the increased traffic on Cody versus Few?
You.
I'll get it right once.
Yes, good evening, members of the planning commission. My name is Bruce Rowe. I'm a traffic engineer, prior to this traffic study, professional engineer in Colorado, also professional traffic operations engineer. I have 32 years experience. I worked for the town on the Basalt South Side study, and I think due to that, I got suggested to help with this project since I'm very familiar with the Basalt South Side area. Great question with regards to the Cody Lane and Basalt Avenue intersection. That's something that we've evaluated here between our planning commission meetings. The shift of residential traffic to Cody Lane actually improves the operations of the Cody Lane and Basalt Avenue intersection. It's better for the exiting traffic to queue at the stop sign on westbound Cody Lane approach rather than along northbound Basalt Avenue, because it's all about keeping that intersection clear so that movements can turn to and from Basalt Avenue to Cody Lane. And so actually shifting that residential traffic to Cody Lane provides benefit. And as you mentioned, View Lane is going to see a significant reduction in traffic volume because most of the traffic generated by this development will actually be to and from Cody Lane rather than View Lane. View Lane traffic would be the storage unit traffic only, and the Cody Lane would contain residential. And then we did check the southbound left turn at the Cody Lane Basalt Avenue intersection for the coming home traffic, and it's the same with or without the project. We're showing just one vehicle need of queue storage there, and it works at level service A. Keep in mind that this development generates very little volume in the afternoon peak hour. There's 14 southbound less, and so it's about one car every 4 minutes that will be arriving in the peak hour, and so that can very easily be spread out and accommodated in that intersection.
How many vehicles are able to be accommodated in the left turn lane on the Cody off of Basalt?
I would say that it can accommodate 4 to 5 before backing into the highway just based on that spacing. As Dave mentioned, we're ultimately working towards roundabout at that intersection. And so the queues for both roundabout and the existing two-way stop control were checked, and they work acceptably with either of those conditions with this project.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. If there are no more questions, we'll open it up for public comment at 6:48. If you wish to comment, please come up to the microphone, state your name, your address, and if you can keep your comments just about 2 or 3 minutes, that'd be great. And we'll go one at a time, yeah.
Thank you. My name's Andy Rothschild, and I live at 409 Meadowview Lane in the south side neighborhood right near Allison. And I was not aware of this development till maybe a week ago, so I then read the sign. I emailed James. He was very kind to send the development materials to me. I only have one comment, and I don't know if you've heard from other residents of Southside on the same subject. The current 8-foot privacy fence, I think, has been a benefit to those in our neighborhood while the Myers operation has been there. If I understand the proposal, it'll be removed. And I guess I have a concern about what will provide the privacy as an equivalent to what currently is there. And so that's a concern I raise for everyone to consider. And the second point is Few Lane, which I just learned to pronounce, by the way, has also been an important access in and out of our side of the South Side neighborhood. And so I don't know, I heard the comments about the emergency services and the like and where that might go. We certainly hope it won't become a more heavily trafficked area, and I heard the traffic comment a minute ago. And so what can be done to, on the one hand, allow us, the residents there, to continue in and out there and not have it to be overly burdened would also be appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi again. I'm Stacy Stokes. We actually live at 221 East Few Lane and 223 Alexander on the corner. So I see a lot. I see a lot of traffic. Almost saw a kid get hit the other day by a car. That intersection is a nightmare. Few Lane is a nightmare. Sorry for all the typos in my email. I was in a hurry. I got chastised for it. If you look at Few Lane, you guys have seen pictures. It's basically an alley. We don't even have a street sign. And The road itself is our driveways along the entire road. So if someone slips or someone goes into those, they go right onto our property. I've almost been hit. I watch my grandson like a hawk because he goes and plays on the driveway. In my opinion, it should, for safety purposes, be 2 lanes until the big rock where you've got NJS Farm and the entrance into Myers now, so that people can come in and go out, so that the people dropping their kids off can use her roundabout to go out. And then have, I know they propose a soft path, I think more like a 6-foot wide hard path would be better, so that if few lane is needed, 2 lanes for emergency access, or something happens on Basalt Avenue and you need to reroute traffic, you've got it. It can all be a level service. I referenced in my letter, we do this in Florida, specifically in Monroe County. If anybody wants any information, I can certainly get it from our county commissioners or anybody at the county. We have roads in Florida that are 2 lanes until there needs to be an evacuation. And then they turn to 6, or they turn to 4. But they purposely keep them at a minimum of either, in this case, a 1-way, but then they can turn into a 2-lane road in a heartbeat for safety purposes. And they do it there for hurricanes. We do it for a lot of reasons, but mainly because on US 1, they can keep the speed limit at 35, 45, and 55 is the fastest. Otherwise, if it goes higher than that, it does have 4 lanes somewhere in there, but people drive 85, 90, people die on that road all the time when it can be too high. I don't want to get too much into that. That's just, there are places that do this. There are places that use roads in a dual purpose manner. And then if we had a hard path, we would be encouraging bikers, strollers, children, walkers. Instead of a 2-lane road, then we lose all that space because there's not enough space for them to provide place for pedestrians. And I see people, that is the access for Stotts Mill, for South Side. Also, if we don't make Few Lane a 1-way road into the neighborhood, traffic is going to increase on Meadowview, it will increase on Alexander, and it will increase on Allison. I already see the high schoolers do it. And, I mean, listen, I have kids, they drove, they got their whole thing. I'd like to see more people walking and biking in Basalt. I hate driving around town. I think it just is better, it's greener, the whole thing. But when I was young, I saw a kid get killed by a car. And it was just my 7-year-old friend and a 17-year-old kid. And we watched him die on the street. And I don't ever want that to happen again. And I really don't want it to happen in Southside. And the way that traffic is now, somebody's gonna get hurt. We need a safe place for the kids to ride their bikes, for families to walk, to get in and out of a daycare center. We've got a park up on Meadow Lane or Meadowview. The kids from Stotts Mill walk there. I know that the traffic from this particular development isn't going to increase per se on Few, because if it'll turn around and go here and they'll go in. I'm worried about what's gonna happen in Southside neighborhood. So thank you for listening to me.
Thank you. Any other comments?
We have a hand up online here.
Excellent, okay.
John Fitzpatrick. John, would you like to make comments to the P and Z?
Looks like you're on mute, John.
John, there you go.
Now?
Yes.
Yeah, we can hear you now.
Okay, fantastic. I'm Fitzpatrick. I'm the president of the Basalt Center East Homeowners Association. My question to the traffic engineer, didn't seem like there was a specific study how much traffic will be added on to Cody Lane from basically what is 0 now out of that area to what it's going to be as the main source of egress to the residential area. So I'd like to see what happens with that. The other thing is, if this thing goes boom and we end up doing the roundabouts, to make it flow, we have no stops. Everything keeps going and flowing. But the only for the underpass to go over to 82, the pedestrian meets right at Cody Lake there. All the bicycles, everybody who walks goes under into town. That's going to be totally impacted by not having a stop sign there anymore to make a true roundabout flow. I think really town needs to look into extending the underpass past Cody Lane to make that a really safe access for bicycles and pedestrians. Really, this is down to we need another form of egress of the whole south side. And that needs to come down onto the south side of probably within the area. And I have no problem. I think it's a great looking residential area. Everything lines up great with the public transportation. But the whole south side really needs, I think it needs a moratorium, any more building over there until we have another form of egress into the town, into the south side of 82. And I'd like to hear from the traffic engineer what he thinks of how many more cars will get onto the Cody Lane at that time.
Thank you, John.
You got it.
Maybe we'll keep going. If there are any more comments, and then we can come back to Curtis, I guess. If there are no more comments, we'll close the public comment time at 6:57. Curtis, did you hear John's comment? Would you like to comment on that?
Yes, I did. That's a great question. We did look at that. We did evaluate Cody Lane as part of the Basalt South Side project. From our counts, Cody Lane currently has a peak hour volume of 132 vehicles per hour. This project would add 26 trips to that. So that would increase from 132 to 158. That's roughly almost 3 per minute. And so that volume is low enough, it works, the access works at also okay. The westbound approach works at also okay. It actually is a negligible traffic volume increase. It's better for that traffic actually to access via Cody Lane because of that low volume, also because of the control over at Basalt Avenue and queuing those vehicles on the westbound approach rather than having that traffic on Fume Lane and the northbound Basalt Avenue approach to Cody Lane. So the shift in traffic to Cody Lane with the access for residential will provide a overall network benefit to traffic movements in and out of this area.
Thank you.
Yes.
I will open it up for commissioner comments. Mike, you want to get us going?
Sure. I think that, the traffic flow in and around this project is important to make it a successful project. I've spoken on the location and the feasibility of transit and those uses aligning with the multifamily and the transit right nearby. I don't know if I necessarily have a comment, but want to discuss the third-party traffic study that's going to be requested by the town. What are we studying? Are we studying a one-way versus a two-way? Are we studying pedestrian movements? What exactly is the desired outcome of that study? What information do we want out of it?
I think we generally want a recommendation on the one-way versus the two-way and the two-way widening approach versus the existing two-way. And I think our kind of inputs are how do we also make it work well for multimodal in terms of pedestrians and bicyclists being able to use it without having concerns of safety. There have been several different options thrown out by various members of the public in providing ideas. Those included the one-way, they included the widening to two ways and having two full lanes. They included a potential separated two-way where you have one way on VU and then you have the other way coming back on what's currently the Somerset pedestrian path. So there's many different options to kind of consider there. So I think we'd like to see the third-party traffic engineer kind of evaluate all those and make a recommendation on how it works best from both traffic flow, but also from kind of accommodating pedestrians and bicyclists in the area as well.
Okay.
If I can just add to that really quickly, the Town of Basalt Public Works Manual has standards for all of the streets and what size they need to be and what the widths are. And so what we're trying to do is navigate the input we're getting from the neighbors with those standards. If we just followed the standards, we would automatically be widening this to a two-way, full-size, two-way street. So we're trying to navigate some data-informed decisions about whether one-way street is the right answer here, one-way with sidewalk, all of the suggestions alternatives that James just mentioned. So that's what we're really navigating.
Okay.
Would it be worthwhile from the town's perspective to do an open house with the neighborhood and the traffic engineer?
I mean, we certainly could. Just back to the point of, I think we as staff are certainly very open to the one-way, but I think we all need a little bit more data so that we're not pitting emergency services against the neighbors. We need to understand some actual traffic flow analysis.
We'd probably also need to talk to the town attorney because they currently are in a development review process and whether, we could step outside that process and, take more public.
Yeah, just a suggestion.
Yeah, and so that would be part of the question, I think.
Comment-wise, I think creating a hard surface trail versus soft surface trail that is usable to bikes, folks with strollers, something that could be used in maybe a one-way instance as a second route, so maybe a more wider multimodal path that could be used for vehicles in time of need is a positive in that sense. I don't have any other comments at this time.
I have some comments. First off, I want to thank you guys for the revised elevations. You put a lot of thought into it, and the results are much, much better. Especially your historical basis and all that type of thought is what I think projects like this in our town really deserve, and I appreciate it. I think that the unit mix, though smaller, looks good in that it allows for a lot more livability and a lot more variance of unit types, and I think it's not going outside of the realm of what units in that price point can support. Unit mix wise, there's not a lot of 3 bedrooms or something like that would sit there forever. So I think that unit mix is good and operable, and even though the affordable housing goes down a little bit, the livability goes up, so that makes it a good thing. I think the revised storage is great. I think that's part of what adds the livability of the whole thing, so I think that's a really good solution. As far as Fiu Lane is concerned, this is a complex and thorny issue, and I agree with the town's plan in the draft conditions of a third-party study, though I'm not really a big fan of the language you use there. I think if you put the language that you just read to us
in your presentation to us, which talks about, you know, a third-party study based on multimodal and pedestrian-friendly solutions. I do think that the current and future AASHTO handbook, Green Book, has some pretty good solutions in it, and the upcoming one will have even better ones. So, and I think that type of actual, you know, industry guidance will work well with the Basalt emergency management people and getting them on board with this. Because in a sense, this isn't really a road, though people drive on it. It's more like kind of a bike path that people drive on. But then sometimes people go really fast. And so I think the overarching goal is for this to work well for the community and to keep kids from getting squished. I could see it happening. Everyone can see it happening. So that's, I think all of those things can come together by a neutral engineer with like industry recognized document solution. So I think that's a good way of doing it. So as far as I'm concerned, that draft condition, if we could just modify that language, basically just to be what you said. I'm okay with the revised building heights. You know, it just coordinates with underlying zoning, and if your new roof design fits well with that, and so that's all a good thing. And again, it goes back to my comments about the rooftop compressors. They're going to be big, and then you got to hide them, and people will see them. And the way those rooftop compressors that are non-freezing look, they're like kind of scary. They look like spaceships, and so you need that to hide them. So therefore, I'm okay with the draft conditions as written and with the master plan change. You know, I think we haven't talked about that, but I think the master plan adjustment is a worthwhile thing. So basically, other than what I said, the draft conditions as written sound great to me.
Cool. Thank you, Bill.
I am stuck on the master plan, because I feel like I was beeping the horn when we did it to have commercial included in all the residential that we were envisioning, because I had 2 kids in braces, and in order to go to the orthodontist, I had to go to Aspen or Glenwood. And once we build and we don't have a place for commercial, we're never going to have any commercial in Basalt, and that just means more people living here driving to Aspen. So that's my biggest hang-up, is we're not adding jobs that the master plan envisions, and if we want to go by what the master plan thought it was going to be, it wasn't industrial, it was going to be mixed use. So, you know, the housing near the transit, I think is fine, but storage space, while it's needed, do we need it in close to downtown Basalt, next to a residential neighborhood? Could that land be better used? And if we're going to rezone it, could we rezone it to something more useful to the community? So that's where I'm stuck.
I'll speak to the few lane thing first, and I think that's a discussion that's long overdue probably for South Side. In fact, I almost feel like the whole few lane thing is even separate from this development, because I don't see, you know, cars are going to be turning off before going into it. But yeah, it's really more, it feels like you're going down somebody's driveway when you go down it. I mean, navigating one car down there is enough, and they're not clear sight lines. So speed is an issue. And I can't reasonably picture it as a two-way street. So I would definitely be in favor of looking at the one-way. No, I'm not really sure how it would work if the now pedestrian thing at the end of Somerset was to become kind of a loop thing. I'm not really, I think that would need to be studied a little bit more, but yeah, having traveled down Few Lane a lot, I would agree with the one-way change to it. And
It was open to either.
I'm sorry?
The applicant, I believe, was open to either.
Yeah,
So-
but again, as I said, I mean, it's worth a discussion in and of itself. I wouldn't even, I mean, I'm not thinking of it in terms of this particular development. I think we just need to talk about it in general. As far as the specifics of the development, I appreciate all the work that has gone into it. And I don't like continually being the voice of doom and gloom, but for me, my priority, and I don't think I know it's not just my priority, listening to people try to find housing here, but is to increase the amount of deed-restricted affordable housing that we have available. And, I said last time, and I still feel this way, I would ideally like to see 50% on this. I know that Bach is not recommending that, and so there's not really the teeth to put into that, but I do feel like we as a commission keep seeing these proposals, and we just keep giving away, and we're running out of spaces to put employee housing near, in locations that make sense, near transit and near town. So, I feel like I'm kind of a one-person crusade fighting that cause, but that is my opinion on it. So, I'll let it rest there.
As I enter into this after missing the first couple of meetings, as a Southside resident, I've driven numerous times, and I think having a third-party study would be huge. I'll go on the record right now saying the idea of turning Somerset into a road is awful, especially with the hobby farm there. It'd just be disaster. But we'll get the study and see what it says. I think is important. I want to echo what Rob was talking about, because as I was reading the notes and the proposals, and I think you guys have done great work and met what people have been asking you guys, and I think you're doing great. I had the same question, another storage unit. We just put in, the storage units right there on Southside Drive, and now we're doing it different, and I understand it's a different type of storage unit. But I'm not sure that's the best need for Basalt. To echo what you're saying. I'm torn because I like the multimodal, I like the access to public transit, I like the mix of units, which I think mitigates a little bit, Cindy, of what you talk about. I tend to agree with you, the more the better, but the unit mix, we're not gonna get a lot of the second homeowners like we're seeing in other developments in town, hopefully not, knock on wood, of course.
Just check the
I
sales
know.
across the street
I
for
know, but
units
it's-
the same size.
Same size, different location, different uses, but.
Not that
but
far.
I know. So that's what's echoing in my head. Is it the best mix use, for that space? And I appreciate what you answered tonight, because you answered a lot of the questions I had about what it would look like, and, you might have different types of storage units. I'm still not sold that's what we need, personally. So that's where I'm left. So, here we are. Do you want to go forward with a motion? Do we want to talk through this?
Well, I could make a motion like I just talked about, but I don't see a lot of concordance with that, but I'll do it just to start the discussion. I'll make the motion to recommend to council that they review this based upon the draft conditions written with the changes spoken about. Not sure we'll get much support on that, but that's my feeling on it.
Mr. Chair, if there's not a second, then you might allow the applicant to respond to some of the items brought up.
Okay. Let me take a minute and see if there's any thoughts, any comments on Bill's.
Whatever we vote, we're not voting whether or not it goes to council. We're just
It's
voting
just a
on our opinion.
recommendation to council, correct?
It goes regardless, I think.
Yeah, okay.
Before I open up to the applicant, anybody want to respond to Bill or questions about that?
I don't know if I have questions. I guess I'd like to hear more. I agree, Cindy. I don't think you're the only one who would love to see more affordable housing in this development. I think it's a good spot for it. But I don't know if we have the teeth on this commission to do anything about that, unfortunately.
We don't, but we
Yeah.
can take it as it is or not take it as is, and then,
The hard part is everything that's being proposed is allowed under code.
correct.
So, and we don't really have a control over what they
Well,
propose.
no,
as
there is a
we-
master plan change,
There is a master plan change, and we can approve that or
Amendments.
not. I'm okay with it,
right, but so that is not currently approved.
yeah, that is not
Right.
currently approved. But other than that,
Industrial to industrial is already approved.
Yeah.
Industrial to residential would need a change.
yeah.
And that's the part of it that we're generally
Okay.
okay with.
Yeah. And, you
It's the
know,
industrial to industrial that,
And I've spoken about the loss of industrial square footage, you know, in the town, and I think that's a different issue than the one we're looking at here. You know, I think because of its proximity to transit, there's so few of those left. I think this is valuable, very valuable as houses, and that's why I support it. But I do worry about the loss of industrially zoned land, because I think it's necessary for the community. But that's a discussion that's broader than this project and this application, I think.
If I could respond to that briefly, I think it's also, you know, the demographics and the need for it have changed a little bit, because I remember when we did the on-site, like Marika was saying, that one of the reasons you're doing your moving Myers Steel to Rifle, correct? Is that most of your workers are down there anyway. So it's not like, I don't see that keeping more industrial in Basalt is solving anything except making workers commute up here if that's where there's gonna be a job.
But to combine the two thoughts, it's whether it's Myers or some other industrial use and other office space and other things that accommodate the community, it becomes a storage unit.
Or housing.
but if you're mixed use like envisioned in the master plan, then you're looking at doctor's offices or accountants or architects' jobs for people that live
I guess I'm
here.
not thinking of this as industrial.
Yeah, there's a
No, they're
broad-
not,
there's a
but they are
broad
mixed
amount of
use, and that's how it was envisioned.
industrial uses that aren't heavy steel fabrication, which, you know, heavy steel fabrication used to be an acceptable thing on that parcel.
Yeah.
And now it's not, but there's a whole host of other things that people who live here need, like plumber shops, appliance repair, you know, stuff like that, that actually needs to go in places like that, that if it doesn't, then we're going to Rifle to get our stuff fixed.
We already are.
So that's my feeling.
No, I mean, I have to admit, I've listened to Rob for a couple of years now, I've listened to you for a couple of years, I've tended to kind of agree with James, with Bill, sorry, that this fits what we can and can't do, and I've usually voted here, I'm leaning more this way than I have in the past, right now.
Yeah, it's a tough one. If it was half Myers Steel and half residential, we'd probably take it.
And to be honest, if I didn't look across every single day at the now finishing storage units, I probably would have thought differently about storage units. But we just put in 4 massive buildings right there that weren't there 10 years ago, 5 years ago.
And they're there because people want them.
Correct, and I get that, but how much more? And what does storage units do? Second homeowners and people that, not here.
Let's see, are they community serving or not? Like, if you have one, yes, but for everybody else.
That's now we're getting far afield.
Discussion that Americans have
Yes,
too
yes,
much
yes, yes,
crap.
yes. Well, you missed the
For
first
them,
one,
but
you
it's,
mentioned that.
yeah.
I mean, do we think if it was more, if it was some sort of more commercial and more of a public serving industrial use, that's also going to create more traffic? And so that's also one of the largest concerns of Southside. So, just trying to balance all this. I'm not saying we just accept.
But it could force the town's hands to make the improvements that would solve some of the additional issues of that many more trips.
I mean, I would love to see the town push us to one of the top priorities. Every year you wait, you're spending 25 to 50 grand more for the same project. And so, the developments that come in after still should be responsible to contributing and back paying the town for what they were and what they've agreed to as part of the Southside development. But I would like the town to push it, but I don't know if that's really my place.
I mean, it looks to me like this is gonna go to town council with our reservations, you know, whether we vote, whatever, yea, nay, you know, we are
Well,
mixed on this.
If
and
you, if
that's
you
what they're gonna
want, we
hear.
can add your reservations to the motion.
We've done that before, and
Mhm.
I think you were the one who said either yes or no.
Well, interesting, you know, how do we get our point across to council? Do we send this to council losing 1-4, or do we send this to council winning with our reservations noted?
It doesn't matter. They'll read
That's what
it.
I'm asking.
I don't think it matters. I think, you know, this discussion will be in the minutes anyway, but if we put it in the motion, then it's directly in the top of what they'll be reading in their packet if they actually read their packet.
I'm trusting that they do, and that's a good idea. Michelle, do you have any advice for us?
Yeah, well, so what I've heard over the last few meetings amongst the commissioners is that the concern that the benefit of the project is bringing housing near the BRT. So you probably want to have that noted in your motion, that you're hearing the concerns, and this is really clear, I think, across the five of you, that the study of Few Lane is overdue and needs to be done. So that's a good thing. That the architecture has generally gotten better for the proposed project. That's a good thing. Now, the discussion about balancing out commercial uses on the site versus storage, it could certainly be noted in there as a preference, or you could vote it 4-1. I just think you might want to balance out what the benefits are versus the costs here in your motion. So you might want to double down on what you think the benefits are, and then equally note, we would prefer more commercial if we could, or ask, or vote it that way if you want. But I think there are a lot of things that are coming up here that maybe are not as linear or connected to what the commercial use is. That's all. I mean, I'm just, bringing back the issue that we don't know what the commercial use would be and what the traffic rate would be. It might kill the project, frankly. So that it's just, that's what I would be weighing if I were sitting in your seats. What are the benefits here versus it not going forward? I mean, it is going to go to council regardless, but I think you guys have had a very meaty conversation about this for the last 3 meetings. So there's some things you definitely like and some things that deserve more discussion.
I guess I have a question to the applicant about the concept of the HOA of not allowing it to be a primary business. Is that based on traffic?
No, it's based on the user. So in similar developments like this, you have, you can, have a board of 3 or have a board of 5. And then based on anyone that is an owner within that unit, they can, if they see somebody using it as a primary place of business, they can notify the HOA, then it goes through the HOA's recourse process.
So why not allow it?
It would, depending on the uses, it could increase traffic somewhat. And so we were willing to make that suggestion to help in limiting traffic. From the beginning, finding that right balance of, you have lots of basic storage space just to the west. Providing a different type of storage space that, theoretically, I have seen in other jurisdictions, some people could use this as an architect's office, as a, CPA could use it. That does generate some more traffic. And so in trying to balance out the south side, the traffic, not to generate more, but to try and right-size it, is how we landed on that. We looked at, could you do 90% of the site as these storage units and only one storage building? That didn't seem right either with the proximity to the park and ride. And so looking at town linkage, looking at BOC requirements, we felt this provided that balance. And we think we've mentioned kind of industry data on these units. They tend to be about 70%, 70 to 80% personal use, and about 20% commercial use. With the factors that Curtis looked at in his traffic study, we felt then that traffic generation number was adequately sized for the storage component of that. And so I'm sure, you know, we'd be open to either of those. It would just increase that traffic through the Basalt roundabout, Basalt Ave roundabout. And to your point, Rob, you know, if you look at it from a mixed-use development, my firm does plenty of that as well, and looking at trip generation from coffee shops to medical, it's just gonna 5x. And so then you're pushing into that next part of the traffic study there. So we fully understand it as we've worked our way through the site plan and hopefully kind of settled in on something that is a best of both worlds, but understand your point.
Did you look at having more deed-restricted housing at any point? And
We looked at doing more housing units. We also looked at doing less. Our understanding was we were above the town linkage. We weren't aware of this mixed-use component to that, because the town linkage right now is only 15% of full-time equivalents generated, which would only be 2.7 houses required. With the new 30% linkage that was being looked at, it would be 4 units. So we were at 11. We thought we were far in excess of that. And as an industrial-only zone, the amendment to add the housing essentially creates that next layer that I think James mentioned, the 14 units would be the, it's a square footage linkage in there. But with the 15% linkage and then the Bach 20%, we were exceeding both of those at that point. So thought we were above that.
I was just curious from like a community serving benefit. Is this something you thought about?
So I'm trying to just come up
Just
with a
looking
motion
at the units, we thought we were in excess already.
that kicks the can.
But we haven't done the cost-benefit analysis of, you know, full construction costs, and if it will pencil. That has not been done at this point.
Bill, if we're gonna put addendums to a motion, I have housing, traffic, and jobs / mixed use. What else would we want to highlight as part of the motion? More affordable housing?
Yeah, I guess I'm not so sure about the job thing, because I feel like
Well, that's
employers
why-
have such a hard time finding people to work anyway. Do we want to be adding to that problem?
I don't know.
Where are they
Like I
going to
said,
fund the employees who don't have a place to
well,
live?
in a lawyer's office, or, you know, someone that's not going to pass into practice, or an architect.
Let me tell you very short story about architects in industrial zone district. When I first was living up in Aspen, this SCI zone district, service commercial industrial, was all like auto body shops, repair places, plumber shops, you know, wholesale type things. They were small, but they were, because it was basically a Mill Street and Puppy Smith.
Over my place.
No.
Area.
No, it's more.
Mill
more
Street.
more down on Mill Street.
Okay.
Down-
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and probably it was around 88. Harry Teague was in the Elks building and was going to move his office into one of those metal buildings down there. And he had this whole big campaign to do it, because it wasn't allowed to have design offices or architects' offices or professional offices in that zone district. And it was a big deal. It was like lots of council meetings, lots of people there. It was on grassroots TV. The whole council chambers were packed. And it was a giant argument, and then it was, you know, and the council had a vote and allowed it to happen. Big cheering, everyone was super happy. Within about a year and a half, every single one of those industrial uses was gone, and it was full of interior designers, architects. And, you know, that's what I do, but it's like all that part of the community serving things were just gone. And then you were all of a sudden driving from Aspen to Glenwood to get that stuff done, because Basalt didn't have much of it either. So it sort of happened all overnight. And so it's a very slippery slope, and that stuff can change really fast.
But Bill, why did that happen? Because the professional offices are
They'll
willing to
pay
pay
way-
more in rent?
They'll pay
or-
way more in rent than like vacuum cleaner repair.
May I give you a suggestion here? So, we need to have one motion for the special review and the PUD amendments, and a second motion for the master plan amendments. So there's an opportunity to have Bill's motion, as stated, go forward, related to the special review and the PUD amendments, and then possibly a second motion, or a different motion for the PUD, for the, master plan amendment request. And that might be a place that gets your message across, if you're in agreeance with the other motion. Everybody's, the messages.
I agree with that, and I'll remove the master plan component from my motion.
Okay.
So we have first and second, good.
Can you repeat what your motion is then?
My motion was just to accept the draft conditions as written, but with the discussion on Fiu Lane being, as I discussed and James discussed, with the
Multimodal.
multimodal, the third-party review, and, looking into one-way versus two-way and all that other stuff.
First, we have a second.
That one's for the master plan or?
No, that's the
No.
PUD.
PUD, just the PUD by itself.
PUD in the special review.
We have a second. You want to take a roll call or just a vote?
Just a vote.
All in favor? I can vote for this.
Aye.
Okay, motions pass.
Do you want to wordsmith the other motion? Or a motion, or not a motion?
Help me, Michelle. We're amending the master plan to permit a change from industrial to residential,
Yes.
despite our concerns about traffic.
Well,
just
I
don't-
think you're,
Types of
maybe
use, commercial use, or?
I think on this one, it would just be whether, this is your place where you could say that you would prefer more commercial. Because basically the site plan review and the PUD amendment address the traffic and the other issues.
Housing.
Yeah.
So the motion itself is to amend the master plan to allow residential. That's as clean as that.
Just,
Okay.
that's all, okay.
And we would then tag on, I'm just not wording it right.
With the allowed change in use, we would want more affordable housing.
No, it's just more about the different.
Mixed
It's just-
use, yeah, the
Yeah, this one
mixed
is just
uses as envisioned by the master plan.
That would be it.
Because traffic is covered, housing is covered.
We didn't really cover housing, no?
We made the motion that we'd like more.
Is that part of?
That wasn't really included in
That
the
wasn't
second.
included in
Well,
mine.
then, okay, so
You can do that
including
in
here,
yours.
You can.
It would include.
because we are rezoning from industrial to residential, so this seems like it'd be the place for it, if you want to include housing.
Sure.
So we were like,
Additional.
the, emphasis, I don't know what the word is, the focus,
Make a motion to approve the change from from all industrial to
to,
mixed-use residential industrial.
no, because it's only going to residential.
No, it's mixed use.
Oh, it is mixed use.
Currently it's mixed use on the northern portion closest to Cody Lane, and that needs to be adjusted to,
Oh, so we're losing the mixed use.
on the northern portion, yes.
I thought we were adding residential to mixed use.
Mixed use has residential.
We're making the mixed use solely residential. It's really odd because the
Okay.
property is two different lots.
Okay.
And the lot with the primary existing facility is industrial,
And it's staying industrial.
and it's staying industrial, and the lot with the proposed housing is in the master plan mixed-use typology.
Yeah, currently, the mixed-use typology requires those to be integrated.
Right.
And they're separating it.
So we have to make a motion for lot,
I mean,
how do we designate the lot?
yeah, so your choice here, because the master plan amendment is really only on this area where the residential is proposed, is to either approve the motion as written, is to approve the motion with conditions. You'd like something to be higher, you'd like more commercial, whatever, or to recommend denial on that.
Or to recommend
Denial.
denial. So we would like the conditions to be,
I mean, this is a great place to put the 50%.
So something like I would make a motion to approve the permission of residential along with the existing mixed use, or this mixed use is going away from this property?
It'll go away, it'll go away.
So
It'll be
allow
res-
the conversion of mixed use to residential on this property, with the desire to see a much higher percentage of the residential be deed restricted housing. Would that work?
Mhm.
Is there anything else to add in? Do you want to add? Well, it doesn't matter about,
we lost the mixed uses.
right, because that would apply to that.
But we were
I
losing
know.
mixed use anyway because it was always just gonna be residential on that lot.
Right, industrial and residential, which, when they should both be mixed use.
Yeah. We
But I
could go
think the
back,
way
but,
it's
but we
divided
could,
isn't-
but Rob,
yeah.
we could go to the industrial parcel and say we wanna make that mixed use. which
Probably
then
not
gives
now,
you
right?
more-
You could make a motion. and see what-
Revise the amendment.
Mhm.
You can make an
I
amendment.
don't-
Revise Bill's
I don't
amendment.
care, I don't think, I don't care whether, I don't think dividing it is a bad thing. It just makes our motions more complicated.
Yeah.
That's it.
But it sounds like because of the
did. We voted.
legalities of it, they have to be separate. Two motions.
Two motions, but I would like each parcel to be mixed use. That doesn't, it's not what we're discussing.
I think that's not in the proposal at all, correct? I mean, the way it's designed, that's
Right.
not an option, so,
No, but that's where the master plan was envisioned, and that's what we're amending, so
got it.
we're overlooking it.
So then your motion might be to deny it.
So you actually have a resolution in your packet for the master plan amendment. So it would probably be helpful if you tied your motion to that resolution, so.
That's what we're doing, isn't it?
Well, yeah, but by saying in your motion, you recommend approval of the resolution with suggested adjustments, that there's a desire to see a higher percentage of deed restricted housing on the piece that is going to be multifamily residential.
23.
23, okay, thanks.
And then whether you want to talk about mixed use or not.
Cindy, is that your motion?
I'm just looking at what James was referencing. So the resolution, the wording here, James, is what you were saying, to change the future land use map and the typology map. Is that the resolution, or is the actual resolution itself?
That's the resolution. There's a resolution, so you could recommend approval of the resolution with whatever adjustments you're
Okay.
talking about.
Okay.
Because P and Z has to pass a resolution to change the master plan.
So I propose a motion to approve resolution of the change as detailed on page 23 and 24 in our packet, with additions that the desire for a greater percentage of affordable housing be strongly considered.
We have a second.
Anything else, I'll add whatever else you think. Any other concerns you want to add to that?
as well as the originally intended mixed-use designation.
Okay, as well as reconsidering the original mixed-use designation? Does that make sense?
Well, that would, that
It
would
kind
not,
of negates
that
it,
would,
right?
right, that would
Yeah.
negate the potential,
Pretty
so.
one. Can't we just start from scratch and say, I'd like to make a motion to approve this resolution, with two things to consider. One being a greater, up to 50% deed-restricted affordable housing, and
Second one
reconsidering, the second one being reconsidering, the elimination of mixed use on this parcel.
I was going to the inclusion of mixed usages.
With a preference for mixed usages on the property?
I think that would work.
Okay, I was just going to ask council to consider it.
Okay.
That's all we can do, right?
Well, preference, consider.
Yeah.
I think that works.
I do appreciate the thought you guys put in behind this, and I'm sorry you have to see this sausage being made.
Yeah. We don't usually get so in the weeds on this, but we obviously have a lot of different opinions we're trying to consolidate.
Okay.
Second?
We have a first, we have a second. All in favor?
But a little further discussion before we vote.
Before we vote? Okay,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, I'm going to vote against this because I'm in favor of it as is written. Just to be clear. All right.
Comments before?
I support the increase in affordable housing. I'm not sure how the mixed use ties into the recommending approval, but
No, just trying to let them see the discussions we had about what is exactly industrial uses and what uses best benefit the town. That's all we're going for.
okay.
So,
Did that
we have
come
a motion,
across?
we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Or all against? Bill?
Opposed.
Okay.
Motion passes 4-1. Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah. On that note, we will move on to the next item on the agenda, which is a public hearing on the Midland Avenue Design Guidelines.
Thank you.
Over in the,
Spirited conversation.
That was, it's,
they're gonna hear this, so they're gonna get all this.
Carlton, are you introducing this one?
I am, I'm trying to get one.
It's okay, I think we're all happy to have a 5-second break.
I'm good on breaks. We can keep it going, guys.
Yeah,
I've been breaking for a while.
We'll be expecting a lot of interaction from you on this.
Deal.
We're all leaving now, it's just
All right. Good evening. I'm here this evening to introduce, or reintroduce, I should say, the Midland Avenue District Design Guidelines. This evening we have a final draft for your review, and staff is requesting that Planning and Zoning Commission provide a recommendation for approval or referral to Town Council for these guidelines. A little background, Town Council approved a contract with GM Shea in 2025 to create design guidelines to ensure consistency and compatibility with the historic nature of downtown when a new property is built or an existing property is altered. This contract follows directives from the master plan, specifically to promote the historic nature of Basalt and human scale development through goals 1.2 and several objectives found in the master plan. Those objectives and goals are included as part of your memo this evening. This evening we also have Jessica Hubbard from GM Shea on to walk through the changes since you guys have last seen this draft at the beginning of January. And just for a little bit of a refresher, the design guidelines specifically address a number of architectural considerations, including historic context, treatment of existing buildings, treatment of new buildings, treatment of roofs, windows, material, and considerations for parking, landscaping, site accessories, service areas, overhangs and awnings, arcades and galleries, signage and lighting. Staff values the input of this commission and requests a recommendation to town council, as I mentioned. However, as these guidelines do not amend the land use considerations of town code, this recommendation is a courtesy from Planning and Zoning Commission. If you have any questions for me, I'd be happy to answer them. Otherwise, I will defer to Jessica.
What was that last thing about a courtesy?
So, as these guidelines are not adjusting the land use code portion of the municipal code, your recommendation is a courtesy, and is not required for town council
Will we be
approval.
voting on something then?
Yeah,
Okay,
It's Carlton's fancy way of saying this is a referral.
okay.
correct.
Thanks for translating.
I have a
I
question.
guess I'll jump in here and just introduce myself to those that I have not met. Apologies for not with you all tonight. James, would you like me to go into my quick presentation?
Yeah, I think that would be helpful. Would you like me to share it, or do you want to share it on your screen?
I'm happy to share. Do you kindly grant me access?
It sounded like Bill might have a question initially.
Yeah, and while you're getting access, I'm going to promote you to panelist. Bill has a question to
Yeah,
begin with.
I have a question for Carlton, because this is more of a code issue. This document seems to dance around demolition quite a lot. So is that a code issue, or is that this document doesn't really deal with demolition of historic buildings?
So, I can add that demolition, there's still code that deals with demolition. And again, these are design guidelines, and so
So it doesn't talk about that at all.
should a structure be located within the district, we would still have an applicant go through the process of providing the planning documentation for redevelopment of a property within the design district. Does that answer your question?
No.
And more specifically, if it's a historically designated building under the local designation requirements, demo's already covered in the code.
Okay, good, because I lived in a Victorian that was equal to Brad Putnam's house. And right after I moved out, it was bought by the neighbors and just boom. There was not a thing wrong with it. It was it was plumb, square, and true. I mean, it needed insulation and windows and stuff, but it was the structure of it was, but historical buildings, that's like a big deal. It wasn't falling down, it needed what old buildings need. And they just flattened it because they could, and they were from Houston, and that's what they do.
I'm seeing to get about the people of Houston.
Anyway, it's gone, and it was like a, and all of those pictures in this thing about historic basalt, that building's actually in a lot of those pictures. So I just hope that we have some strength to that, because we've never been able to deal with that, ever. And everyone gets upset when it happens, and it still happens, and I still don't think we have any control over it whatsoever. But that's not germane to this discussion. Sorry, off my soapbox.
Jessica, I think the floor is yours.
Okay, I'll jump in. So I think most of you know me, but for those of you who have not met me, my name is Jessica Hubbard. I'm with Jim Shea in our Denver studio. And I am going to try and fly through this as quickly as possible, because I think most of you have seen this presentation and I did condense it. Just a quick introduction to who we are. We are a full-service architecture firm Oh, I'm getting some feedback, or are you guys?
We're all good on our end.
Oh, okay. I'll just do that. So we are full service architecture, 9 full-time team members. We're based in Savannah, Georgia. That's why we were hired by the town, because of our extensive experience with National Historic Landmark District and design manuals and working within urban context. So for those of you that need a refresher or are not familiar with the project, we were contracted by Johnson Planning to develop design guidelines for Midland Avenue. And as we dug into the project, we actually designated the Midland Avenue District. So it's an area defining the C2 downtown business district and properties fronting Midland Avenue. And just to clarify, we discussed this last meeting, but we are not proposing a design board. We are truly proposing an overlay to the existing municipal code. And so we're strengthening, bolstering up what's already existing in municipal code. Design guidelines, just to dig into exactly what they are, and I hope all of you have a chance to review your packet to see the breakdown of diagrams and materiality restrictions. They're flexible policies. They are a proactive planning tool that will be upheld by our planning staff. And if you were able to take a peek at our checklist, there are some items that will be reviewed by the commission and then ultimately will need to be approved in order to move forward to site plan and or building permit review. But essentially they provide guidance for treatment of existing buildings, new development, historic buildings, which we are calling contributing in these guidelines. And then just to build on this, if you're saying to yourself, why do we need these design guidelines? It's to protect and celebrate the culture of Midland Avenue. And we'll get into some of the features in the next slide, but essentially they provide a consistent framework for the planning department for new development as it comes down the valley to make objective informed decisions about projects that are coming across their desk. Oops. Here you can see the district, the proposed district. As I mentioned, it's not the entire C2 zoning district. We did remove some parcels that would not be, the design guidelines would not be applicable to those properties. And it is in the design guidelines too, so hopefully you have an opportunity to review it. And then just zooming out, so we define what makes Midland Avenue so special. As I was saying, the design guidelines protect what makes this district walkable and charming. And so some of these qualities are vibrant colors and playful variation of roof lines, 2 to 3 story buildings, so buildings that are designed to scale, a walkable environment, and then a connection to the history of nature. And really feel these characteristics are, they're driven by zoning, but they're reinforced by design guidelines. So I won't get into each section because hopefully everyone had a chance to review the full document, but we still have the 7 sections. In the introduction and history of character portion, we describe what made Basalt the way that it is today, what historical events and industries shaped Midland Avenue. Then in section 3, we dig into how to treat existing buildings and particularly reference how to treat historic buildings, referencing the Secretary of Interior standards, even though none of the buildings within the district are designated on the National Register. And then in section 4 and 5, we start digging into new construction, new development, how to treat landscaping, massing, doors, windows, awnings, things of that nature. And then in section 6, we build on the already existing sustainable design overlay that the town of Basalt has, and we make recommendations to how to implement those systems or treatments with a catch-all diagram. And then in section 7, we talk about the review processes and applicability and the certificate of appropriateness. And so just digging into the revisions and additions from our last meeting on January 6th, we did take the feedback from the commission and we implemented different changes to mostly section 4, but the biggest change we made between DMJ and town, we landed on the proper review process. We decided that a certificate of appropriateness is the most appropriate checklist and process. And so in order to be approved for site plan and building permit review, you have to have ACOA if your property is within the Midland Avenue district. And then we did create a form and checklist. So the applicant can go through that, and then we do have a column identifying the elements that are flexible versus non-flexible. The items that are flexible would then go on to the Planning and Zoning Commission, and the items that are non-flexible will be reviewed at a staff level. And then some of the feedback we got on January 6th, we heard some comments regarding the open space maximum percentage diagram, and so we removed that. We refined the language, and then we reorganized the section regarding building placement, active frontages, habitable infill, and open space, and so hopefully that is clearer and more applicable now. And that's in section 4.1 through 4.3. We revised our overhangs and awning requirements for Planning and Zoning Commission comments in section 4.8. The town arborist provided some language and revisions to what we were saying, and so that's now in section 4.5. And then finally, we revised some of the language around sidewalk paving, and we also added language on water mitigation in section 4.64. And then we made some other changes. We're working on making up the graphics so that they're legible and consistent, but these are the major changes from our meeting in January. So finally, I want to go over our goals for tonight's meeting. I know we are running to get some up, but we would love any feedback from the Planning and Zoning Commission on draft number 3. If there's any items you feel are missing from the guidelines, or if you have any specific concerns, we are here to hear them. And then ultimately, as Ross mentioned, we're seeking recommendation for approval to take the final draft to Town Council on March 10th. So I'll open the floor to comments and feedback.
Well, I'll start with a comment. I've used quite a few design guidelines for downtown historic areas, and this is one that is actually useful. You know, it tells you basically where to go and what to do, and it's not heavy-handed, so I have like a few minor quibbles with it, but, you know, that's kind of what the community wants, so I'm not in a position to even make some specific changes to it. It's a good, usable document that would serve the people who need to use it.
With any of the conversations with the town of Basalt arborist, were any discussions made about the new Colorado laws, WUI districts, historic trees adjacent to historic buildings? Was there anything specific related to that in the town, or Jessica, your discussions with the town arborist?
I would just make a quick note that any state regulation, such as WUI, would still be required to be adhered to for this. As to the specificity of the discussion between Chris and Jessica, I'll defer to her on that.
We didn't really talk in detail about those. I mean, we definitely have language regarding mature canopy sizes, and in our historic section 3, we talk about, we have some general language around landscaping and not encroaching on historic buildings or foundations. But happy to follow up with him and talk about any state regulations. But we do have professional offices, like Carlton mentioned, that any building code, any state law, state code, these guidelines would need to adhere to.
So any tree removal over a certain size, regardless of where it is, requires a tree permit removal, a tree removal permit. Sounded weird.
There's no mitigation, there's no mitigation for basalt, correct?
There is, if you're over
There
a
is,
certain
okay.
size, yeah. And so that'll apply here too.
Okay.
And just for whatever it's worth, Chris did review all the landscaping recommendations in these for appropriate native species and whatnot.
And I think staff is generally more concerned about kind of the WUI requirements for the Hill District up above than downtown, because it's gonna get tricky with the WUI code in the Hill District.
I'm late to the game, looks great to me.
Excuse me, I'll just add that it looks like a really comprehensive document, and I mean, I can't really tell looking at it, and we're trying to remember back to the graphic
Work session.
pages, the work study session. I can't remember, like what everybody said on their sticky tags and stuff, so I couldn't really tell how much of that is incorporated into the final document. So I just have to go on good faith with that.
If there's no more comments or questions, do we want to entertain a motion?
Motion to recommend approval.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great, thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Jessica. And the last item for us then is commissioner comments and staff updates.
Is it too late to revisit one of our something about our resolutions
It's
or amendments?
particularly without the applicant here, it's not good practice. If it's a deal breaker,
No, I just wanted to point out one thing in all our discussion about that. I don't know that we got in with the two you were saying about it being like not being sure about the community serving purpose of the storage. Did that get into that, you think?
I would say that it got into the notes or into
Okay.
the minutes
Okay. I just want to make sure all of that
multiple times. I'm not sure if it's fully covered in the conditions, but it's certainly covered in the minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's all.
fair. Good discussion. What are updates? Oof. Let's see, I think that our Cliffs Hillside RFP is coming due with proposals
Next
what is-
Friday.
this Friday.
What was that, the wet RFP?
Cliffs Hillside Park.
Oh, okay.
Additionally, with due dates, referral period ends on Friday for 540 Basalt Avenue, and we will be bringing that shortly for a PUD amendment across the street from 555 Basalt Avenue.
So the rug washing.
It's, the rug wash building for an additional dwelling unit, deed restricted unit. Other updates, we had the third meeting of the Land Use Code Subcommittee today, which several P&Z members are on. And so there's a kind of a one-page update memo that's was provided via email to the commission today that just kind of primes you for further discussion that'll take place likely early March here on updates to the land use code.
What's the status of Black Mountain?
Black Mountain, I actually heard from them today. They are getting close to submitting their final plan application.
Will that come to us before it goes to council again?
Yes.
I think that's it.
That's it.
Do we have any upcoming dates that are of significance?
Our next meeting is scheduled for March,
3rd.
Yeah, March 3rd. And so we did have a plan to have code amendment discussion on that meeting. And then the second meeting would be March 17th. And you'll probably be looking maybe at the rug wash in that time frame.
Cool. Do we have a motion to adjourn at 8:06?
Motion to adjourn.
We have a second. Second, Cindy, all in favor? Aye. Meeting is adjourned at 8:06.